Wow, so last week I tried doing a Rick and Morty video for the first time. You guys really liked it. So yeah, I'm doing another one. Let's talk about Season 6. Season 6 of Rick and Morty is pretty good. It's not great, it's not bad, but for what it's worth, I think the season's pretty good. I'm going to go through the episodes, tell you guys my opinion of it. Don't get mad at my opinion or anything. If I say I don't like an episode that you like, it's all just for interpretation, you know what I mean? So yeah, all of these episodes I thought were mostly okay, with a few things that I didn't really like. But when the season is good, it really is good. So let's get into the first few episodes that have come out and see what this season has to offer. So episode 1 is the best episode of the season. This specific episode is really good. I definitely enjoyed this. It felt really fresh and new considering a lot of the stuff with the series. It's always, the series has always had for a long while now, that if it wants to have more, grounded, serialized, ongoing storylines, or if it just kind of wants to be, classic episodic adventures that don't really add much to the overarching story. And they've mostly switched, at least to at the beginning of the season, to slightly more serialized and ongoing narrative, which I really think is a good thing, is a step up for the show, considering a lot of my personal favorite episodes are all ones that kind of add on to ongoing stories and stuff. I just really feel like it elevates the show, to a whole other level. So I was very glad to see that. But yeah, this episode is the best one in the series because it does kind of take itself a lot more seriously than any of the other episodes. I really feel like a lot of the other episodes feel a lot more kind of more pointless-ish. I wouldn't really say pointless, but they feel more like season 4 or 5 episodes where they're just kind of goofy and don't really add much. However, I really like the stuff with Evil Rick, or I guess we should call him Prime Rick. But yeah, he's really awesome. All the stuff with Rick going back to his past and his dead wife and stuff is really interesting, and I really think deserves more time in the show. And Morty's also whole thing with the Cronenberg Jerry and stuff was great. It was really interesting seeing how Jerry would react if everything got taken away from him in that way, because he doesn't seem like a character that would act that well to that kind of stuff, but, somehow he was kind of able to move on, and that's kind of powerful while also being kind of heartbreaking, too. This episode is really kind of an emotional episode and a really good note to start the series on. Unfortunately, the other episodes aren't quite as good. And then we have episode 2, which it's definitely not bad. I did actually enjoy quite a few things of the episode that I'll get to in just a bit. But it is definitely a step down from the first episode, because the first episode made me think a lot that it was going to be a lot more serialized. This episode kind of proved me a bit wrong, because it kind of went back to a lot of the way more episodic structures of the other ones that, again, don't really have any effect on the overall story. That's not to say that it wasn't good. It's not a bad episode. I just felt like it was a step down. There was definitely a lot of stuff that I did like about it, if you're able to look past all of the Die Hard references. There's definitely a lot of Die Hard stuff, and I guess, I don't, personally, I like the movie. It's not great, but, I like it. So doing a Die Hard parody, it was alright. The stuff with Summer, in my opinion, is just fine. It's not, great, but, it's alright. For what it's worth, the stuff with Summer in this episode doing her Die Hard is fine. But where this episode I think is really good is where Rick inside of the Roy game. It's just such an interesting concept to have Morty spread throughout all of it, and Rick needs to get them all back into the real world. It's a pretty interesting concept, and they do take full advantage of it. So yeah, I think it's a decent episode. It's not great, but it's just your regular old-fashioned Rick and Morty episode. It's alright. I'll give it an 8 or so out of 10. Episode 3 is a weird case, because it's actually the only episode of this season that I don't like. I don't hate it by any means. it's just, I just don't like it very much. Like, if you thought that episode 2 felt a lot more, like a bad season 5 or season 4 episode, then this one is like that, but like a lot more. It's just, I don't know, it's definitely not bad, but like the concept of like Beth falling in love with a clone of herself, it's just kind of a really weird concept that doesn't really like serve like the actual show very well, and just kind of makes for an episode that's all right. I didn't hate it. I thought that a few of the fleas of it were all right, and honestly, it is kind of a sweet episode. But I don't know. There were definitely a couple of times where I laughed like pretty hard. It does have a couple of good jokes in it. I'll give it that. Overall, not a great episode, definitely the worst episode of season 6 so far, but again, this is a pretty good season, so worst episode doesn't really mean all that much. However, episode 4 is actually a really good episode that I really enjoyed. Probably the second best episode in the whole season. Is what I probably would say if I had actually seen the episode, but no. Unfortunately, I couldn't even see this one because, oh my god, Sling would just not record this episode. I'm sorry, guys. I really wish I could give my opinion on this episode, and I guarantee you I will in a future video, but Sling, man, why could you do this to me, Sling? Let me watch my Rick and Morty, Sling. Why? Why is my internet connection so bad? Anyway, talking about the episode 5, I think. This episode, will not be the best episode in the season, is definitely the funniest episode in the season. I laughed quite a bit in this episode. It is a pretty hilarious episode with a lot of definitely not clever humor, but humor, and that made me laugh. The whole fortune cookie idea of the episode, that all fortune cookies come true at Panda Express and stuff, is a really funny plot, and I really feel like they took full advantage of it in this episode. It's just a overall just fun episode. Basically, the whole plot is, and I'm not making this up, they go to Panda Express, and when Jerry gets the extremely sus fortune that says that he's gonna be doing your mom, doing your mom, and he really hopes that won't happen, as you do. And so basically, he teams up with Rick, and it goes down a rabbit hole about the whole fortune cookie society, and a bunch of hilarious battles ensue. It's not a great episode by any means, but it's a really funny episode that I would definitely watch again. I enjoyed this episode quite a bit. Probably the second best episode that I've seen of season 6 so far. Anyway, so yeah, guys, thanks so much for watching. So far, Rick and Morty season 6 has been really good. Probably by the time of recording this, and probably by the time of posting this, new episodes are probably going to be out, so this will be dated, but still. Thank you guys so much for watching this. Today, your main Garfungus is Among Us, and today he just talked about season 6 of Rick and Morty. Thanks for watching. Bye.